introduce myself. Ooh, recording in progress. I'm Leslie Feinzaig. I'm the CEO. Actually, I'm not the CEO. I'm the managing director of Graham & Walker. I became a venture capital investor a year ago, and I'm still getting used to my new title. I would love to know who is here. Tell me who's here. Be active in the chat room. Tell me who are you? Where in the world are you? And are you wearing real pants, or are you still in your pajama pants? In good Graham & Walker, that's what we've been asking people all through the pandemic and in the post-pandemic days. For those of you joining us for the first time, Graham & Walker is a venture capital firm born from community, our community of women founders, the Female Founders Alliance. Our mission is to reshape the NASDAQ by supporting and investing in tomorrow's most powerful companies that are led by women. And today we are joined by Amanda Goetz, the founder and CEO of House of Wise. And I'm going to read her bio, but before I do, I should tell you that I've been like fangirling and following her for a long time. She is she's like one of my favorite Twitter follows. And so I'm super, super excited to actually get to talk to you today. As the founder and CEO of House of Wise, Amanda is on a mission to help women give more purposeful intention and take back control of their sleep, stress, sex, strength, and wealth. All things that I should be doing. So I really need to go on that website and buy myself some House of Wise products. It sounds like Amanda has more than 15 years of experience building brands that inspire, empower, and serve women. She is a leader and advocate breaking down stigmas and stereotypes surrounding CBD, cannabis, and the role of women in our society today. And as you all know, when you registered for today's forum, we asked you, what do you want to hear about from Amanda? And so we're going to go through a few questions that we have, and then we're going to go through a few questions that you guys gave us. And then we're going to leave a lot of time for you all in the audience to chime in and tell us what you want to hear about. So why don't you get started? Hello, Amanda. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I will start by saying, everybody, wallpaper. I am at my parents' house in the Midwest, and I'm in the basement while they watch my kids upstairs. So this is legit my dad's golf wallpaper.
It's amazing. I thought it was like a virtual background.
No, it's not. Everybody thinks it is. And I'm like, no, this has been up since when I was like 12 with my girlfriends. We'd have sleepovers and do glamour shots in front of this thing. So like OG Zoom background.
Wow, it is amazing. That is, made for the moment. So where in the Midwest are you?
So I grew up in a very small town, 800 people in central Illinois, like a little bit north of Peoria. It's a funny thing. There's a saying for marketers: if it plays in Peoria, meaning you'll know something has reached mass adoption if people in Peoria, Illinois have heard about it or would use it. And so I truly like attribute being from here as like one of my marketing superpowers.
It's almost like it was preordained. So tell us a bit about your background and story from before House of Wise. I see here that you were a VP of marketing at The Knot, which is like, great brand. So how did you get to where you are today? Tell us a little bit about that path.
Yeah, so I graduated college early because I was paying for it. And I also got married very young, started my career at Ernst & Young. I was managing the Entrepreneur of the Year program. So that was kind of my first front row seat. I was analyzing companies and shepherding founders through that program. And for those that don't know, it's basically Ernst & Young's kind of pipeline for future IPOs so they can do the IPO. Then from there, I moved from Chicago to New York, and I took kind of a 180 and went to go manage a celebrity wedding planner's brand across. He had licensing deals, reality TV show, books, etc. So I was in the wedding industry for a few years, then saw kind of this pattern of problems. And this was back in 2011, 2012, when the New York City tech scene was just heating up and accelerators were happening. And so I decided to take my first kind of entrepreneurial step. I launched a wedding tech startup, did an accelerator program for a year, And that was my first founding experience. And I made so many mistakes. I learned so much. It was drinking through a fire hose. And I remember, so that led me to the Knot. I was at a female pitch night one night pitching to raise capital for my company. And the founder of the Knot pulled me aside and was like, let's grab coffee tomorrow. And so we grabbed coffee the next day. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was actually pregnant with my second baby. And she offered me a position to lead go-to-market strategy so we could take the Knot from a traditional media company to a two-sided marketplace. And I got to lead the brand repositioning, changed the entire visual identity and go-to-market strategy. Was there for 5.5 years. We were a public company when I started. We were taken private, merged with our biggest competitor. So I got to see both sides. I got to manage to the street and then have private equity and what comes with, being owned by private equity. And really, I was never going to be a founder ever again. But as we all know, when you get the bug, meaning you start thinking about a problem and you feel uniquely positioned to solve it, it starts to take up more and more of your mental space. And then all of a sudden your calendar space. And I was still leading marketing at the Knot when COVID hit, but I had probably spent about a year thinking about the fact that the culture around, so I'm a single mom, I have 3 kids. And at the time they were very, very young. And there was this mommy wine culture where everyone celebrates the nightly glass of wine or TikToks, or my TikTok For You page is all around moms, chugging wine. And I'm a former ACE certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor. Health and wellness is a big part of my life. And yet when I found myself kind of height of my career, going through a divorce, 3 kids under the age of 4, all I knew was, well, maybe I should have a glass of wine to help me with my stress, anxiety. But when I tried that, it just made everything worse. My sleep was worse. My anxiety was worse. So I started researching the difference between THC and CBD and started to nerd out on the actual studies that are happening in research labs around the world. And I saw that there was really no CBD companies that were talking to someone like me. They were trying to take people who already had adopted cannabis or understood cannabis. So when COVID hit, I decided to put a little more energy into it because I saw women were really, really taking the brunt of all the things throughout COVID, especially with childcare, and they were drinking more than we had ever seen them drink before. So I wanted to create the company kind of out of necessity. And so I raised a pre-seed round while I was still at the Knot. I was transparent with everyone because I was building in public that I was doing that. And then I quickly transitioned to a fractional CMO role for another startup. So I did that 2.5 days a week while I built House of Wise. And then once we launched, it wasn't until 4 months later that we launched and I raised the seed round is when I went full-time on House of Wise. So I had a very non-traditional path to, did I freeze or did
Froze.
I froze?
You froze, but I can hear you. Divya, I can see you. Can you wave at me if you can see me okay? But Amanda's frozen. It's okay, Amanda. You look cute. It's good.
Okay. Well, I hope I can.
We can hear you too now.
Okay. You can.
You're back. Oh, no, she's gone. Amanda, we lost you. Oh, we lost her completely. Okay. All right. We're going to wait for her to come back. Chat with me in the audience. Tell me who's here. Let's see. Rachel.
Hi. The art in the background is beautiful, by the way.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, we need to spotlight you again.
Welcome to Midwest Wi-Fi. I don't know if that was me, but I apologize, everyone.
Wi-Fi has not made it to Peoria.
I'll be like, Mom, the Wi-Fi is kind of spotty. And she'll be like, yeah, I think it's going to rain. And I'm like, that's not a thing. So I apologize.
No worries. We grew up in Costa Rica. We had like power outages like a couple of times a month, and then water outages. Sometimes you couldn't shower, so you'd like go to like your like cousin's house that you could shower. So
Right.
actually, it's all good.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
Before we get into your launch, I wanna kind of probe around a little bit in the kind of brand creation of House of Wise. You spent a lot of time in marketing. So a couple of questions that I have for you. One is, why is it for women? Like, what was the thinking around that that audience? And you talked a little bit about, I mean, obviously from your personal experience. And then the other is, where does the name come from?
yeah, great questions. So we are marketing towards women, but we are effective for all. So actually like 30% of our sales are from men. And we've recently made the decision to remove some of the languaging on the packaging that talks directly towards women, and we're making it a little bit more gender neutral. However, because we are sitting at this intersection of content, commerce, and community, the founders of Pop Sugar led our seed round. I believe firmly that the future of D2C brands are going to be built on trusted content and expertise and actual like connections with a community. And for me, women hold that power, and to gain the trust of women so that they can talk about your products through word of mouth, they have to know that you understand them, that you get their problems. And I think that for me, when building a brand, you want to start by speaking to a smaller cohort and get them to be loyalists before you expand. I'd rather nail this demographic first. And honestly, they're going to be the ones purchasing wellness products for their significant others anyway. So it's very intentional, but we also don't want to be just like exclusive of men when they use our products. So like early users of our sleep gummies, we have a lot of men that use our sleep gummies. They're like, I feel so silly because it says a wise woman takes control of her sleep. I'm like, yeah, that's really good feedback. We will remove that because I don't want you to feel like this product isn't for you, but it was made to remove the shame and stigma women feel around getting help in all of these departments. And sexual health and wellness just became a VC category in the last 3 years. There aren't a lot of products outside of toys that are helping women understand like what sexual health means. And it's around like what are the benefits and what is the societal like stigmas that women feel, why we don't feel like we are allowed to experience pleasure. And so there's a lot to unpack there, but it was really important that we started speaking to women first. And then the name actually comes from, so I was on a trip to India right when COVID started for work. And I was thinking about this company, I was thinking about this brand. And so I just went on this like research diatribe around women who have gotten like effed over in history. And there was this story about Brownie Wise. She's the woman who started the Tupperware party. And the long story short is Earl Tupper created the kitchen storage. Brownie Wise is the woman who was like, well, women are influential. Women like it's post-war, women want to earn money. And so she created this idea that women should have parties, sell it to their friends, and then make other people ambassadors. She made it a massive business that it wasn't before. And when she asked to be an executive at the company, and she wanted like equity, he ended up firing her and then sold the company 3 months later, making millions. She got none of it. And she went off to just go live a life like no one heard from her again. And it was just like really sad that she didn't get recognized for that. So I wanted to like recognize it.
Wow. I had no idea. What a story.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a rabbit hole if I ever heard one. Women who've gotten screwed in history. I'm like, I'm not going to start Googling that today. But wow, what an incredible story. What a great name. I love how you call your customers wise women.
Yeah, it was our early like adopters. We were just like, there are wise women, and now we have wise men, which they are very proud to be wise men. But like our entire distribution strategy is not D2C, traditional D2C. We don't spend our money on Google and Facebook ads for two reasons. One, I want to give that money back to women. And I believe women are influential and actually have a halo effect in brand advertising. But two, cannabis, there are a lot of restrictions with Google and Facebook ads. So we did $1 million in sales in our first year, spending less than 20K in Google and Facebook ads. So like, that's a very non-traditional D2C strategy that is through these wise women who are championing the brand and sales.
So how does, tell me a little bit about how that works, and what can other folks learn from it? Because obviously, like, especially, you know, if your early budgets are tight and you can't do a ton of customer acquisition, you know, tell us about how you pull together that go-to-market strategy for this, like, still quite non-traditional product.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it works because it's a non-traditional product, because that's my parents' landline. It's gonna get the whole
It's like one of my favorite like firesides of all time. Oh my God. Okay.
if like there's gonna be a goat somewhere soon. No. So with community, it's really, really important that they don't feel like they're being told to do something, right? Like they don't want to just be asked to do something all the time. It has to be a two-way street. And so with our early community members, they truly got to be a part of the building of the company. They got the earliest samples, like the lab samples. They got to see the packaging. They got to have influence. We would take polls with them. And then they knew we were going to launch way before we actually told the public. And they had all the assets to like champion this. Like when we raised our seed round, they promoted that we raised the seed round. It was more around, they felt like they were getting a front row seat into what it's like building a business. And in exchange, they get massive affiliate cuts. It's a straight affiliate commission model. Like it's not an MLM. For those that don't want to know the difference, MLM means multi-level. You get a percentage of the people that are under you that you recruited. So your percentage only goes up as you recruit more people under you. That's why it's called a pyramid scheme. And it is predatory on women, particularly low socioeconomic women. So for us, it's an affiliate model, which affiliate sales have been around for years. Traditionally, we think as marketers of affiliate sales
You
as—
lost your audio.
Really?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can't hear you. No.
What the—
I can hear you.
Yeah, I
Y'all can hear her?
I think
Oh,
it's,
Yeah, I can hear her.
Oh, it's my computer. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Please keep going.
Okay, if you guys can hear me, but let me know.
No, it's just me.
So straight affiliate model, we think of it as influencer marketing, right? Like, oh, I want this influencer to go promote this whatever thing, and they're going to get 20%, 30%, whatever. The way I think about this product, because it's so personal, it's so intimate, right? You're talking about your sex life with someone, or you're talking about the fact that you're really stressed. You're going to hear about it from someone you have that intimate relationship with. And so for us, it was really, really important for us to focus on, I'm watching the comments. Someone's, yeah. I'm going to have to go unplug that phone. So for us, it was really, really important that we went to people who weren't traditional influencers, but they're influential, meaning they're passionate. And like some of the people that we have that are highest sellers in our affiliate program, they're the people who are like the movers and shakers in their community. They're hosting women at their house. They're not, yes, they're posting online, but like, that's not the way that they're driving sales. So we actually, like all of our wise women have these like little buttons on their phones where if they're out at dinner, someone can tap and buy directly and their affiliate link is like programmed into it.
Yeah.
So it's important that you think about them as like omni-channel sellers. We even have women who will go to like local spas or salons and advocate for them to be in, to have our gummies in their shops. So we think about our wise women as kind of mini omni-channel, like moving retailers, and how do we enable them to do so? But then obviously you create programming just like you guys are doing with Graham and Walker. It's like, how do I make sure that they feel like they are getting so much value? So we give them monthly educational, like they get to sit with a sexual health and wellness expert, a licensed sex therapist, and they can ask questions. We have a sleep doctor, so they can talk about like what's affecting their sleep. So it's truly, when you're building a community, has to be about a two-way street.
I love that so much. I feel like MLMs give affiliate marketing a bad name because the two are so like bucketed together. But in reality, like from my background in Latin America, so many women feed their families through what we call catalog sales, which is essentially affiliate marketing, or affiliate sales. And it's like it truly is like a huge, wealth generator for women like all across the world. So I love hearing that is like working so well for you. So can anybody come and become an affiliate seller for you?
Yes. So I'm trying to answer questions as people ask, so that way I can,
We're gonna do a lot of direct audience questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we allow anyone, and obviously when someone signs up, they go through a little bit of an onboarding flow, because there are things that you can't say. Like you can't go out and take our gummies and say this cures cancer. Like we would get literally sued by the FDA. So there's lots of things that we have to do to make sure and monitor. And we have a social listening tool that pulls in all tagged posts. So we do have someone reviewing them to make sure that everything is feeling. But at the end of the day, like the DNA of a wise woman is actually not just one DNA set, right? We want everyone to take this ethos of what it means to be a wise woman and feeling like you're standing in your power of like getting help and feeling in control of your mental health, your sexual health, etc. But then making it your own. And so we think it's important that they put their own spin on it.
And that there's a really great question in the chat room that I'm going to get to in 1 second, because I actually want to talk to you about this. But before I do that, can you give us a sense of your fundraising journey so far? So you said you raised a pre-seed and a seed, and how did those come about? Like, were you well connected already? Like, were folks waiting for this? Was it a lot of angels? Was it was there funds?
So because of a few factors, we are CBD, and CBD is different than traditional THC. Like it still sits in this kind of blurry middle ground that a lot of people, THC is actually easier to build in today because there are THC funds and the rules are very, very black and white. Like, you know what you can do and what you can't do. CBD is still in this kind of like non-federally regulated industry. So for us, it's been important that we have people on our cap table that understand our mission, understand our approach to building a non-traditional D2C business, and our understanding like our growth trajectory is going to be different than a traditional D2C. Like if I wanted to take $1 million that I raised and put it into Google and Facebook, that would be a very different growth strategy than what we're doing today. Like it's slower, it takes more time, but it's longer term. Like for all the companies that are seeing all the effects of the algorithm changes and iOS changes, like we were unaffected by that. And so it's going to take us a longer time to grow to what somebody who raised 5 million and put it all in Google and Facebook 2 years ago, we're going to have different growth numbers. But for us, we raised the pre-seed with one pre-seed firm that I had known for a while. Again, this is my second startup, so I've known a lot of VC funds for a while. I saw this question come through, so I'll kind of answer it with this question. But building in public has probably been it's has its pros and cons, and we can talk through those. But the pro has been the connections and the ease of warming an intro, because they've heard about you, whether it's someone retweeted something, etc. But like, they have heard. And if you plan your launches or your buzzworthy moments in the right way, it's impossible. Like the way we announced our seed round, it was impossible not to hear about House of Wise on that day, because we had every wise woman, we had all of our investors posting the same thing. Our seed round was led by the founders of Pop Sugar. They understood our approach to content-led commerce in a way that it was so aligned, and they just like got it immediately. The thing that I will say about fundraising, what the landscape was even a year ago when I raised the seed round and what it is today is vastly different.
Yeah.
And so what sounds easy, and what I'm talking about, my experience from 2 years ago and a year ago, I'm now in the trenches with you all right now, and it is different. And as someone who was like, oh, I'm going to raise in Q1 of this year, no big deal, we just killed our Q4 like projections. I went out in Q1 and I was like, oh, everything changed.
Yeah.
Valuations are different. Money is being conserved. Bigger VCs are looking at their portfolio companies, making sure that those portcos are going to last and are not burning too fast. So a couple of things I'll say that I've like shifted in my strategy is like, one, capital efficiency is king right now. Like we have shifted slightly into like, we have to get into profitability mode very fast, because we don't know when the next raise is going to be. Yes, we have a safe open right now, and we take, like, if it's a right strategic like angel, we'll take a smaller check right now, and we've left a vehicle open so we can take them in. But right now we're kind of being really smart about being in kind of profitability mode. And then two, the biggest difference from my first startup to now in fundraising is like running a process is the best way to explain it. But as a woman, I didn't hear this a lot in my first startup from women, but I would hear it from men where they'd be like, I'm going into fundraising mode. I won't see you for 3 months. Like, don't bother me for 3 months because I'm going to go raise a round. Whereas like when I would talk to my female founder, like friends, they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet with an investor in a few weeks. And it was just this like slow drip.
Yeah.
And so with House of Wise, I acted like the male founders I had seen where they run the process. And I told my team, I'm going out to raise 2 million. I'm not going to be in a lot of one-on-ones and meetings. Like, I need you guys to hold down the ship. Here's our OKRs. Just we're all aligned on strategy. I need to now shift my entire full-time job into fundraising. And I ran the process. You create hype. You have a PRable moment, you get in front of everybody, you have everyone talking about you, and you go out and you find your lead. Then you like have that big fish that you tell everybody you've got, and you create a sense of urgency, and you say you're closing the round on this date, and you create this sense of FOMO. And that was the biggest difference from what I did with my first startup to now. And you get back to running your company faster. But I will say, raised my seed round when like Clubhouse was still a big deal, and you had like confined attention span. And so I like Kat Cole's one of our investors, and she would like talk about House of Wise in a Clubhouse room with 2 million followers of her own. And all of a sudden my inbox the next day would explode. I'd be like, oh, Kat was on Clubhouse last night. Like we had some things that were happening that were different, that are not the same today. And so like, it is a slightly different ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a the founders that are currently going through our Catalyst program, many of them are here, and we've been drilling the fundraising as a process instead of as a thing that you do. And so I'm really, really glad to hear you validate that. And it is absolutely true that that the process today, you have to rely a little bit less on FOMO than the process a year ago, because FOMO is essentially gone from the world right now. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to hand it over to the audience. And you are building in public. I don't know how long you've been, so you have a large followership on Twitter and like across other social media. So I don't know how long you have had that, but one of the things that I think about a lot these days is like building in public as a woman in the post girl boss era, or in the kind of wake of the girl boss era. And like, I just feel like for women founders, it is such a double-edged sword, because first you get put on this pedestal, and then like you're such an easy target for stuff that like our male peers just like never have to worry about, right? Like, so how are you handling that? Like, how are you thinking about it?
So I started my Twitter journey now 3 years ago. So meaning I had a Twitter account, but like I was not using it. And I got on Twitter because it was honestly like not a dare, but like I basically was like, it's an echo chamber. Like there's no good for women out of Twitter. Like, and this guy was like, commit to doing it for 6 months. Everything you say to people, like just put it into a tweet and see what happens. And so I committed to tweeting like 3 original tweets a day for 6 months. And I was like, we'll see what happens. And it kind of just started to take off. And I saw the benefits. Now, it's funny you should say the girl boss thing. I have had investors that literally are like, we don't invest in when there's a female face of a brand. We don't like when the founder is the face of the brand. Like that, we no longer invest in like girl boss-esque.
Yeah.
And I just found that so interesting. And I think that there's a lot of media bias, a lot of bias towards it. But at the end of the day, early stage companies, investors are investing in founder product fit. And House of Wise will grow beyond me very quickly. Like, especially like where we're kind of pivoting into distribution strategy now, it's like, there are lots of people who are going to try House of Wise and never know my story. But in the early days, like there's, especially with a CPG company that is around things that you're putting into your body, I felt it was very, very important that, and it was a strategy, it was our brand strategy, because the two things that women care about when they were looking for these kinds of products were, can I trust it? Is it effective? And who's behind it? And the cannabis industry is primarily dominated by men. And when you're targeting an audience, like people are starting to care more and more post 2020 about where does your money go? What is your social impact? Like, and like, how am I being a better person by aligning with your brand? And so for me, it was important. And I think building in public there's pros and cons. Like I said, pros are faster connections. People know who you are, and so they'll open your email. The cons are it's a full-time job. Like you are also a content creator, and like that does take time and effort and energy. And so for me, I'm a marketer and I love writing. Like I was a content writer for a very long time as well. And so it's second nature for me, and it gives me energy, and it actually gives me ideas. And I feel like I have a finger on the pulse of what my consumers are saying and liking. Like I'll do polls and I'll talk to women. My audience on Instagram is 90% women. Like it's insane. And my audience on Twitter is like 68% women. So I feel like I have like a very good research pool, but if you find that it's draining energy from you or you hate it, then that's not good for you as a founder. Like, it gives me energy, but you have to look at everything on a level of effort and a level of impact. If it is taking you a ton of effort to put yourself out there and it doesn't feel second nature, then the impact is not going to be there, because you're not going to do it well and you're not going to like grow. It's going to feel like another job. So then it's not worth doing.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. Okay, folks, let's take a look at what's in the chat room, and any questions that you guys want to hear from Amanda. Let's get going. I have questions from the Eventbrite, so I can kind of go into those as folks start populating what they want to hear about. And there is one all the way up. Can you quickly show us more about that button on the back of the phone, and like where can people find such?
Yeah, I wish I had like an affiliate link for this, but no, we'll just give them more business. It's a holler, HOLLR. They created a technology that when you tap your phone, I will say it works like 80% of the time. Like sometimes you're sitting there and you're like tapping the phone and you're like, oh, it's supposed to work. But it, like you guys said, like it's a new thing and people are like over QR code. So it's just kind of like a glorified QR code, but they can program their link into it. So HOLLR.
That we are all going to go and look for it. I still don't see any questions here, guys. Tell us what you want to hear about. So the Eventbrite questions were kind of in 3 buckets. One big bucket was in fundraising. So you talked a lot about how you ran your process. An interesting question here. Did you always know that you wanted to pursue funding the way that you did, or is that something that was it like a stated strategy or emergent strategy to decide to go in the VC direction? And if not, like what questions do you think founders should ask themselves before deciding what type of funding to look for their companies?
So I'll say that I don't have a traditional VC funding path, meaning we have some smaller funds and we have like a more new fund that led our seed round, but they are all founder friendly funds, meaning when I told them I was shifting into profitability mode and I'm not going to go raise another round, they were very supportive. Most funds would not approve of that. They're always pushing you to work towards your next round, right? For me, I just in totality of my life, I desire control over my destiny. And I knew that I needed capital to be able to create a CPG company. Like I wasn't going to put my own money into the R&D and creation of these products. Knew that. See the exit potential. Like we see the consolidation of CPG companies in this space happening already. It has been happening for the last 5 years. So I made sure that whoever came onto my cap table knew that we were not chasing valuation numbers. And I see so much of the entrepreneurial world glorify valuation over profitability, like margins, etc. And like, I'll be the first to say, like, if that's your goal, if you want to be a unicorn and you want that on your, like, that is your life goal, then go do it. Like, that's awesome. Like, it's so fucking cool. But for me, like Emily Weiss, like, yes, it's a unicorn, but for me, she hit 100 million in sales. That's cooler. Like, she was the founder and saw it pass 100 million in sales. And my goals are more around, do people love my product? Not do investors think I'm cool or good? Because we've seen so many of these hype cycles where people just create these companies, raise a shit ton of capital, take secondaries, and then they're rich, and then it fails, no one talks about it, and then they go off and go do it again. And to me, that's just not how I operate, and it's not what drives me. What drives me is, can I actually help women feel better? And so my goals and metrics are around that, and what can get me there faster. And so I needed capital to do all of those things, but having that North Star framework of where this company is at and where it's going to go allowed me to filter through investors who would push me into a different path that I wasn't willing to go.
And just for the record, if anybody here is more interested in getting to 100 million in sales than a 1 billion valuation, I want to talk to you, because I think that that's pretty good. Okay, so when you were meeting with investors, did you find that some people just got it? Or was it like a visceral, like, okay, this one gets it, this one doesn't get it? Or were you able to help investors, like kind of help those who didn't get it intuitively to come around and see it?
So every pitch was tailored to the person, which takes time, but it makes the quality of the conversation better. So I always came into the conversation knowing, like, is this a VC that understands brand? Is this a VC that understands strategic partners and supply chain? Is this a VC that understands cannabis? And every single, I would shift the pitch to kind of put that lever on the front burner, so to speak. And that's important because you want to obviously speak their language. And then I also, like, a few things that I did wrong, so I think it's important to share the things that I misstepped, are with cannabis and CBD, like, there are vice clauses. And I wasted so much time. Like, we had a couple of scouts for Sequoia, like, put us through the ringer. And then, like, weeks later, I found out that Sequoia has a massive vice clause and would never invest in us. So I wasted weeks going through their diligence process. And so it's important to just make sure that, like, my category is very specific, right? Like, can you even invest? And then the other things are, like, you hear all the time, like, that's a very diluted market. And then my question was always, can you name 5 brands? Like, if it's a diluted market, name who's winning it. And there's no recall in this industry. So there's no recall. That means that there's room for a brand. So, like, lean in when they ask those kinds of questions, because, like, I had lots of LA investors that would be like, CBD has been around for years. That's like old news. And I'd be like, well, CBD price, your numbers, know the market numbers, and be like, well, it's increased 40% in usage, and it's set to be a $54 billion industry by 2028. So we're still on the cutting edge. Like, there was an epilepsy drug released with CBD used in it. So we're just now, like, studies are showing that people who use CBD throughout COVID were less likely to have any long COVID symptoms. So, like, I would just, like, present the research. And I'm like, we're still in the early days of this. So I think my response is, like, know your numbers, and also, like, lean in when they say something super generic, like, this is a really, really, like, just, diluted market.
Yeah, there's a comment here. Love okay, name 5 companies. that would definitely put me in my place. All right, let's talk about the affiliate marketing program. So how does someone set something like that up? And, like, do you have any resources that folks can use to get educated about how to do it?
Yeah, so there's like Refersion, there's tons of software programs out there. It depends on what you want to be able to do. Social Snowball is another one. We use Tapfiliate because we needed an open sourced code, so that way we could plug into third-party payment processors because we're cannabis and we can't use Shop Pay. So there were some things that we had to work through, but there's, I would say, Reversion, Social Snowball, those are some really good ones to look into. And then really it's about like good old comms, like creating a pipeline that is for your affiliates, making them feel special. When we think about like our comm strategy, it's important that like they feel like they're being spoken to and given information that the general population is not getting. In the early days, we really focused on swag, which I think did help us. So it was like, once they made their first like 10 sales, they got swag, like a little swag box. And that, one, made them feel special. Two, they felt like they achieved it. And three, they were so proud to then like wear the swag and post about it. And it was just like a double UGC moment for us. So those are kind of the like the table stakes things. And then I think the secret sauce as a founder is you have them to truly like help you grow and shape the company. So ask them for feedback, help them feel like they have a fingerprint on where the company is going. Like, do one-on-one calls with them, do even just like, we would do monthly town halls where we would just open it up. I kind of gave like how we used to run like the calls to the street at the Knot. I would do something similar to our wise women and men. And then we'd open it up for questions and be like, what can we be doing differently? What do you guys see and hear? And what products should we be considering? And like, let them have a forum where they feel like they're helping build the company with you.
There's a really good question here around your pre-seed raise. You mentioned that you were still working at the Knot when you started thinking about House of Wise, and really when you got it, really when you got it started. So it sounds like there was not insubstantial overlap between the two. So what are some of the ways that you convinced investors to come along even though you were not 100% in it yet?
I mean, I'm a non-traditional founder. Like I was a single mom and I needed a safety net. Like that was just a very honest thing. And for me, finding people, it wasn't about finding people, it's people who already knew me. Like anyone that invested in me in the early days, they knew me as a person and as a business leader for months. Or I'd been speaking to them for months about the product or the vision. I would say it was very hard to convert someone who first conversation pitching and saying, oh, by the way, I'm not going full time. That was harder, but it was truly the people that had been following along on the journey, or I had been taking them along on that journey, or had worked with me in my past or connected. But for many underrepresented founders, we don't have safety nets. And that was, if I truly needed to like push and tell them why this needs to happen, say like, I'm a non-traditional founder and I totally recognize that. But I also, it's how much I believe in this mission that I'm going to like really work nights and weekends, and I have a milestone. And that was the big thing for many of them, is say, what's the milestone that you need to hit that you'll leave? And so for me, it was like, I raised the pre-seed round and I said, before launch, I will be a fractional employee somewhere. So I have more dedicated time. Did that, like I became a fractional CMO. So I was working 2 days a week as a CMO. So that gave me 3 days a week for House of Wise. Still gave me health insurance and somewhat of a paycheck. And again, I was like, listen, time is a construct. Like I can get more done in 4 hours a day than most people can in 10. So like, if you believe me, then like, let's do this together. And then I'd said the next milestone for the seed, which anyone that came in on the seed round, like the seed round was my milestone to go full time. I said, when I raise $2 million, I'm going to pay myself $100K. That allows me to pay whatever marketplace insurance costs I'm going to have, because I'm in the marketplace, and I can put food on my table for my kids. Like, I think it's important we share like how much we're paying ourselves. And that was the milestone. And so it wasn't that like hard, because they knew, like, if they were coming into the seed round, they knew that with that came the announcement that I'm coming full time.
Was the launch, what was the timing of the launch of the product in between all of this fundraising and like straddling different jobs?
Summer 2020, raised the pre-seed, stayed at the knot all the way till October. And then I did a 6-month, October, November, December, January, February, March was my 6-month fractional CMO role. We launched the product publicly December, announced the seed round April 1st.
Got it.
Closed it, launched it. I was full-time April 1st.
And this is April 1st this year or April 1st last year? Okay, 2020. I sometimes have to remind myself that it's 2022 and
I know
2 years happen. And where, one more kind of in that timeline, when did you start building in public? Like, when did you start sharing this founder story on your social media?
So I had started tweeting, that like intentional tweeting, pre anything. I just started tweeting about marketing. And that's what grew my brand at first. Was I was doing like just how to build a brand, how to think about a brand, what I was doing at the Knot. And then I started doing more media. I had asked the Knot, like at the Knot, you know, bigger companies asking for a raise is like hard. And so I said, if you can't give me a raise, I want to be media trained. That is a skill set I want. And so they put me through like a full rigorous media training instead of increasing my comp, and got me, you know, more exposure. So then I started to do TV and like media appearances, and that helped build my personal brand. And I didn't do it with I wish I had the foresight to be like, and then I'm going to launch a company after I have this great personal brand. But it was more like, these are skill sets I don't have, and I'm at a company that can give them to me. So why don't I take advantage of that? Then that catapulted me into doing a lot of marketing podcasts and marketing threads and all this stuff. Then it was just like a natural segue into, I'm thinking about starting something, and I started to get feedback and sharing a little bit about it. And then I started to tease that it was launching December 1st, like get excited, join this wait list, etc. And then it kind of went from there. But I wish it was like, I had this like well laid out plan, but I didn't. It just all kind of like karmatically fell into place.
There's something too, like, you can't always see things forward looking, but I feel like once you get to a certain place, everything that brought you there starts to really make sense, even if at the time it didn't, or at least that's the way that it has been for me. And I think that it sounds like that's the way that it has been for you as well.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I've loved chatting with you. I'm going to close with one more question, then we're going to wrap. And the question is, somebody asked, what is the part that you hate the most about growing your business? But I actually want to know, what do you love the most about it?
The thing I love the most is getting customer feedback. Like when I hear from a woman that she has not been able to like have an orgasm because of like the stress of COVID or the stress of parenting, and she was actually able to get out of her head and experience pleasure, and that helped her partnership or whatever. That's what literally, like, I read all the DMs, I read when people write reviews, like I take that stuff to heart, and those are the things that like keep me going. The thing I hate the most is, honestly, when you're so in belief of your mission and you have all the proof points happening, and then you go out to fundraise, there is this like weird juxtaposition that I struggle with immensely, to say like, all these people tell me no, all these people are saying yes. I truly have this like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde like feeling of, am I, like, every time you talk to a VC that turns you down, you're like, am I doing this like for the right things? And like, am I capable of doing this? They don't think I am. Do they know something that I like don't know? And yes, like you literally feel like you're taking crazy pills, and then you go back to building your business, and then you get all this positive feedback, and it's like, why do I keep opening myself up to all this negativity when I just want to be doing this, and it's a necessary evil. But that's the part I hate. I hate it. I hate fundraising. I hate trying to like play that game. Like, to me, it's just like, if you like what I'm doing and you want to be a part of it, you will be honored to be a part of my journey. It's like my new framing versus I'm begging you for money. Like, if I have to beg you for money, I don't want you to be a part of this.
I feel like you're like killing me softly with your song. Because like, I feel like exact same way. Like, I'm like, am I crazy? What is happening? There was so I've raised as a founder and I've raised as a VC, which is actually really similar to raising as a founder, at least the early funds. And something happened midway through my fundraising for this fund that like something shifted in my head from like, I'm asking people for money to these people have money and they're going to do something with it. And like, they should be so lucky to be a part of what I'm doing because this is the most special thing that I've ever been a part of in my life. And then like, that was transformative, right? Like,
yes,
you know what?
You have to. It's the biggest mind shift ever. And that energy comes across once you make that mental shift. When you sit in that meeting, that Zoom, whatever, your energy shifts and people feel it. And then all of a sudden it's not desperate. It's like, let me tell you about my company. Do you have any other questions? Like, and that truly does like resonate. And then people want it more. It's like, it's not playing hard to get. It's just saying like, I have boundaries. Like, if you're not bought into what I'm bringing to the table, fine, we're not the right fit.
Totally. Okay, final thing. What can this community do for you? Ask us for help. What can we do for you?
You guys are all founders. You're all so crazy busy. If you need gummies and you're stressed out, like definitely hit me up. I'm happy to share like a discount code.
Yeah, put it in the chat and folks can go and buy some gummies.
Okay, I have to go.
Sounds like some of us need them.
I'll go find one and I'll send it to you guys and you guys can send it out. But yeah, and so like that, and if you hear of anyone or like VCs, if you can hear of people needing stress gummies or sleep gummies, etc., like spread the word. That's really, and as you build affiliate communities, if you want to share notes, like it's all kind of a learning game. So I'm happy to always jam.
All right. Well, we will go buy lots of gummies and help you out. It was such a joy to talk to you. I had so much fun just now, and I'm having like the funkiest day with like my crazy social media situation. That like I really needed this, and I'm so glad I got to meet you finally. I'm such a fan. Congratulations.
Thank you guys. It was so nice to be a part of it. And thanks for dealing with all the chaos of my world. It's
cool. At least I have my kids here. Like my daughter will like come on and then like start picking her nose as I'm doing like a public appearance. Like, so I got you. It's all good. Everybody, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We're over time. Join us. There's more events coming up on the horizon. June 28th, a roundtable with our partners at Georgian on experimenting, iterating and experimenting. We have a Founder Day coming up. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, we have an in-person event next week, which I think is either sold out or like spitting distance of sold out. And then we're hoping to have an in-person event in Denver in September. And then we need to get to LA at some point this year. So yeah, we will try to make it back to New York City. It's been such a joy. Again, thank you so much, Amanda. Have a great rest of the day. Say hi to the parents for us, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.